Hey, Atlanta Fringe. We're here today with Lily Kerrigan at Do You Validate Studios. We're going to talk about your show, The Lily Show.
That's right. It's me, The Lily Show.
Tell the audiences what we can expect when we come in and sit down for your show.
You can expect to laugh. You can expect to not cry, but be reasonably moved. Okay. And you can expect to feel like you've made a new best friend. That's really what I want from my audience is, like, this show, like all of my comedy, was sort of developed in people's living rooms, ultimately. Okay. Like, everything I talk about on stage is something that at some point I was complaining to my best friends about. No one invites me to a party because I bring a good casserole. I want to be so clear. I'm vegan, gluten-free, and I can't have sugar. No one wants to eat the food I make. You know why I get invited to parties? Because I will always have a gossip. I will always have a drama. I will always have something crazy that's happened to me or that I've made happen to me or something like that. That's why people invite me places, and I see my show as sort of a way to invite all of Atlanta into my living room to hear some fun stories and to hopefully feel connected to me. That's one of the reasons that I do a Q&A in my show, is that I don't want the audience to just feel like they've gotten comedy jizzed on them the whole night. Like, I want them to be able to jizz back, you know, because I think that's what really makes art.
Sort of a jizz exchange.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
I believe in orgasm equity, you know?
Oh, that's great. That's great. I feel like you kind of answered this, but why should people see your show?
Well, do you want to jizz and make a new best friend? Like, I can't imagine a better pitch. I also will teach you how to relocate the human jaw. Because I dislocated it during sex.
Okay, so not like relocate it to another location.
No.
Okay.
Although, maybe a sequel?
Okay.
Could happen.
I hope it's nothing people need to know, but
who knows?
All skills are valuable.
No, this is just like, if it goes off its hinges, I can teach you how to put it back into place.
Okay. Valuable skill.
Right, yeah. And you never know when you're going to need it. Do you want to have to call your mother during sex because someone's dislocated their jaw?
I hope to never do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Learn from my experience, come to my show so that you don't have to call anyone's mother, because my boyfriend first called his mother. She didn't know how to fix it. So then we called my mother, and she was more helpful.
Okay.
So, you know, win for Mary Kerrigan.
That's worth so much more than the ticket price right there.
Yeah.
What have you learned by creating this show that, aside from the valuable skills you clearly already knew?
Right. Yeah. I really see this as like a teaching moment for everyone. I think a lot of what I've learned in doing this full hour now for since the pandemic, for a while, like I started out touring in people's backyards and literally just like performing for like 2 or 3 people, sometimes people who wouldn't even come out of their house. They would just watch from the window and I would yell dick jokes up at them, like the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet. But something that I've learned as I've been touring is 2 things, really. One is the audience doesn't care about how smart you are.
Okay.
And like, because I talk a lot about non-monogamy and like the kink scene and whatnot in my show, it used to have almost more of an educational component where I was doing more explaining of different terms. And I realized, like, the audience doesn't care. They just want to laugh. So, like, I don't need to prove to them that, like, I know what all the acronyms mean and, like, give them, like, a whole freaking Cartesian plane of, like, different styles of poly. Like, they don't need it. They don't care. They just want to, like, come and laugh, and that they are willing to come and laugh and connect with you even if they don't fully understand every single word that comes out of your mouth. Okay. That's something that I've really, because I have some kind of material that might not be completely accessible to like the mainstream vanilla world, I've really honed the balance between explaining things so that people feel comfortable and feel like they know what I'm talking about without turning it into a lecture. So that's definitely been a balance that I've found. And then the other thing that I've learned is, like, you can never guess how an audience is going to react.
Sure.
Like, one of the groups that booked my show was my Sangha. I'm very Buddhist. Fun fact about me. And I always have to specify I was raised Buddhist, because otherwise, because I'm white as fuck, people assume that I converted after like a really good yoga class. So I have to specify that I was at least raised Buddhist in this lifetime. Who can say when I converted? But I go to Sangha every week, and often the things that I'll talk about in Sangha are a little bit funny. And so the leader of the Sangha was like so kind, and like when we were touring to backyards, hosted the whole Sangha to come to her house and listen to me do comedy. And the thing about Buddhism, I think usually in the West, I mean, it is, you do have a lot of converts, and my Sangha is pretty westernized and has a lot of, I think our main recruiting tactic is divorce. Like, you know, I think especially like I go to a women's Sangha, and it's like, a lot of people who like joined later in life. So it's a lot of like kind of like older Buddhist women who I'm doing my like comedy where I like open with like, hey, a crazy thing happened to me at the sex dungeon. Would you like to hear about it? And they were, during the actual like set itself, so quiet. The only people who were like really laughing were the leader of the Sangha. She was really tickled. And then there were 3 women who are like very high up and very respected and have been there for a long time and sometimes lead the Sangha. And they were all laughing. But I think everyone else was like looking around being like, am I allowed to laugh? I don't know. This doesn't seem very Buddhist. But then they were so engaged during the Q&A and telling me how much they loved it. And one of them was like, will you take us to the sex dungeon? Are there ever old people there? Could we come? And I was like, yeah, let's get in a bus, guys. Let's do it.
Amazing.
Right. So like I was genuinely thinking like, do I have to change my set before I went up? And like, I'm so glad I did my actual set so that they got to experience it because they loved it. They were having a great time.
Have you done, you said you've done backyards and backs of bars and things like that, I'm sure. Have you done a festival like this?
I have not done the Lily show at a Fringe.
Okay.
I grew up in D.C., so I've done Capitol Fringe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Many times with different productions. I also once did Prague Fringe with, no joke, no lie, a musical production of Kafka's Metamorphosis.
I'm in.
Right.
Okay.
It's just like so much there. Just like every word in that sentence is banana pants. So like this is the first time that I've performed in Atlanta Fringe. I came to see it last year. And of course, the cool thing about Fringe is that it always takes on the character of the city that it's in.
Yeah.
Like DC, it's a lot of political stuff, but it's a lot of Shakespeare, very Shakespeare heavy town. Prague, very like weird, experimental, and a lot of like Kafka-based stuff. And Atlanta, a lot of like really cool, down-to-earth, very eclectic pieces. So I'm very excited to be part of Atlanta this year.
How long have you been in Atlanta?
I came down in 2018.
Okay.
Late 2018.
Yeah.
So a little bit before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I'd kind of maxed out what I could do in DC.
Sure.
There's a lot of cool stuff happening up there and a lot of amazing indie theater that I did. And that's where I made all my best friends. But in terms of like on-camera acting, sort of the big employer in DC is the federal government. It's a lot of like industrials, it's a lot of training films. Like the most classic like DC actor thing you can do is put your security clearance on your resume to show that you can work on classified films. And my boyfriend actually did an FBI training film that he cannot see. He does not have the security clearance to see his own work. But one of our friends who works for the FBI was like, oh, yeah, you taught me that I'm not supposed to trust terrorists. That was very useful, wasn't it? Didn't know if I wanted to like fully commit to being like in sort of like the industrial type world for a long time. I wanted to do more narrative and things like that. Things that are much more accessible in Atlanta than they are in DC.
What would you assume is next for the Lily show?
I think what's next for literally just the Lily show is that at some point I'm going to do sort of like a last chance show because what I'm working on now, so this is actually fun. When I was touring in people's backyards and I was doing these Q&A sessions at the very beginning, often people would ask questions about my boyfriend, my primary partner, my partner in art and life, Matthew Marcus. And because I talk so much about him, I talk about his family because they fucking hate me. Which is great material.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. All of his exes are like, why doesn't your mother love me? I've tried so hard to make her happy. I've brought her gifts. I've been so kind. What's the problem? And I'm just like, oh, you think I'm a disloyal bitch, Carmen? Yeah, go on. More. I have so much. This is good. This is gold. Go on. Anyway, so I've coped very well with them hating me. But I talk about it on stage because it's phenomenal material. And people would, during the Q&A, they would like ask like, oh, like Matt, like what does Matt think about this? Or they would want to talk to him during the Q&A. And so I would bring him up and we would kind of tell stories together, which is also very much the experience that you sign up for when you invite the two of us to a party. Like, again, you don't want to eat our cooking. Matt literally had never boiled water before he met me.
Oh.
I taught him how to make pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was living off of Soylent. So, again, we're not invited because we're going to bring some cookies. We're invited because we're going to bring a story.
Yeah.
So people would often want to talk to him, and he was already an actor and a writer. And so I was like, you should write a full hour, and then we can tour together. And so I do the Lily show, and he does the Matthew presentation.
Oh, cool.
Right now, he's booked to do other, like, much fancier plays up in D.C., so he's not down here at Fringe with me. But our next project is that we're in the process of writing a full hour that's the two of us. That's a two-hander.
Yeah.
And we're about halfway there. So probably our goal is to be finished with that by the end of the year. It'll probably be called the Matt and Lily Show, but it might be something else.
Yeah.
And then probably once that happens, we'll do like sort of a last chance performance for all of the people who are like, no, I'm totally going to come see your show. I just haven't yet. And then our goal is in 2025 to be touring the Matt and Lily show together.
Okay.
So hopefully you'll see that at Fringe maybe some year.
Oh, yeah, we're ready for it.
Yay, amazing.
Okay. All right, well, so while you can, catch the Lily show at Fringe this year. Do you want to tell people where they can see you and when?
You can see me at the Mariana Wrecking Bar Brew Pub. You can see me Friday at 8:30, Saturday at 1 and 7, and Sunday at 2:30.
Thank you, Lily Kerrigan, and thanks to all of you. We'll see you around at Fringe.
Bye.